Ladies and gentlemen, we've all been in situations where someone tries to pull our strings, push our buttons, or steer us like we're a car they own. And maybe we didn't even notice it until much later. But here's the truth. Control only works if you hand someone the keys. The first step, know your value. If you don't know what you're worth, anyone can name your price. And trust me, people will always lowball you. When you walk into a room knowing you bring value, no one gets to shrink you down. Second, boundary. Most people think boundaries are about keeping people out. They're not. Boundaries are about protecting what matters most inside of you. You don't need to explain them. You don't need to apologize for them. A boundary is simply a line that says, I respect myself enough to stop here. Third, approval. If you're hooked on it, you'll always be controlled by it. People can smell when you're desperate for their praise, and they'll use it against you. The second you stop chasing it, their grip vanishes. Next, control your reactions. Manipulators thrive on triggering you. They poke, they prod, they wait for the explosion. But when you learn to respond, instead of react, you disarm them. Your calm becomes their frustration. Then there's silence. Silence makes people uncomfortable, but it also makes you powerful. Not every accusation deserves a defense. Not every insult deserves energy. Sometimes silence is louder than shouting. And finally, walking away. This is the ultimate freedom. When you know you can walk away, you stop playing their game, because no one controls someone who refuses to be trapped. So if you want to make sure no one controls you again, remember this site. Know your value. Set your boundaries. Detach from approval. Master your reactions. Use silence wisely, and never be afraid to walk away. If you don't know your value, someone else will define it for you, and they will always undervalue you. That's just how people work. Most of the time when someone sees you unsure of yourself, they see an opportunity. They'll set the standard for you. They'll tell you who you are, and they'll decide how far you can go. And once that happens, you'll start believing it. You'll start shrinking yourself down to fit inside the box they've built for you. That's why knowing your value is not optional. It's essential. Think about it like this. If you walk into a store and something doesn't have a price tag, what happens? The buyer decides its worth. Maybe they'll offer a few dollars. Maybe they'll walk away. But if that same item has a clear price tag, one that reflects its true worth, the conversation changes. You know what you're paying for, and the buyer knows what they're getting. That's exactly how it works with people. If you're not clear about your value, you leave room for others to bargain you down. And here's the thing. Value isn't about ego. It's not about walking around thinking you're better than everyone else. Value is about recognizing what you bring to the table, what you've survived, what you've learned, and what you're capable of. It's about holding your head high, not because you're perfect, but because you know you're not worthless. When you know your value, you stop settling. You stop saying yes to things that drain you. You stop chasing people who don't see your worth. You stop begging for a seat at a table where they were never going to respect you anyway. And instead, you build your own table, even if it starts with just you sitting there. The world has a way of testing you, of trying to convince you that you're smaller than you really are. You'll have people who ignore you, who dismiss you, who act like what you bring isn't enough, but their opinion doesn't change your reality. If you've got a diamond and someone calls it a rock, it doesn't stop being a diamond. It just means they don't recognize what's in their hands, and that's on them, not on you. The danger comes when you start internalizing that treatment. When you believe the lies, when you take their undervaluing of you as truth, you start living smaller than you were meant to. And that's how control works. That's how people keep you beneath them, by convincing you that you belong there. But the moment you choose to define your own value, you flip the script. You stop letting their opinions shape your reality. You stop needing their permission to shine. And that's when real freedom starts. Because once you know your value, no one can make you feel worthless again. And when no one can make you feel worthless, no one can control you. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out. They're about protecting what's valuable inside of you. Too many people hear the word boundary and think it means you're building walls, cutting people off, or being cold. But boundaries are nothing like walls. Boundaries are doors, and those doors have locks. That means you decide who gets in when they get in, and how long they stay. And here's the truth. If you don't set those boundaries, someone else will walk right through your life as if it belongs to them. We live in a world where people will take as much as you allow. If you give someone unlimited access to your time, your energy, your emotions, they'll keep taking it even if it costs you your peace. Not because they're necessarily evil, but because that's human nature. People test limits, and if they find out you don't have any, they'll keep pushing. Setting a boundary is simply saying, this is where I end, and this is where you begin. It's not cruelty, it's clarity. When you start enforcing boundaries, you'll notice something. The people who respect you will honor them without question. They may not like them, they may not understand them, but they'll respect them because they respect you. The people who fight your boundaries, guilt trip you, or try to manipulate you into dropping, those are the ones who are benefiting from you not having any. And once you see that, you'll realize why boundaries are so important. It's easy to think that saying no makes you selfish. That's a lie we've been conditioned to believe. Saying no is not selfish. It's sustainable. It's what allows you to keep showing up in the areas that matter most. If you say yes to everyone else, you're saying no to yourself. But when you say no to what drains you, you create space to say yes to what fulfills you. And that's not selfish. That's wisdom. You don't need to apologize for protecting yourself. You don't need to write a long explanation. You don't need to convince people to agree with you. And you don't need to feel guilty for choosing peace. Boundaries don't require validation. They require courage. Courage to stand firm when someone doesn't like it. Courage to repeat yourself without softening the edges. Courage to choose long-term respect over short-term approval. The most freeing part about boundaries is this. They teach people how to treat you. Every time you set a boundary, you're sending a message. This is the standard. This is what I will allow. And this is what I won't. And over time, the people who are meant to be in your life will adjust. The ones who refuse will fall away. Either way, you win because your life becomes filled with people who understand your worth, instead of those who drain it. So don't apologize for setting boundaries. Don't water them down to make someone else comfortable. Boundaries are not rejection, they're protection. And the moment you stop apologizing for them, you'll discover something powerful. The people who truly value you will never need an explanation. And the ones who don't were never meant to have access in the first place. And once you live like that, no one will ever control you again. The moment you stop chasing people's validation, their power over you disappears. Validation is one of the strongest forms of control, because it creates a leash around your worth. As long as you're waiting for someone to clap for you, to tell you that you're enough, or to finally approve of your choices, you'll always live in their shadow. The truth is, people are inconsistent. Their opinions change. One day they'll cheer for you. The next day they'll criticize you. If your value is tied to their approval, you'll ride an emotional roller coaster you never signed up for. Think about how many decisions people make, not because they truly want something, but because they want to be liked. They wear clothes they don't like. They laugh at jokes they don't find funny. They take jobs they hate, all because they're chasing someone's nod of approval. And here's the painful truth. No matter how hard you try, you'll never please everyone. Even if you bend, twist and break yourself into 1,000 shapes, someone will still disapprove. So why spend your life chasing something that can never be fully caught? Detaching from approval doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It doesn't mean you become cold or arrogant. It means you stop making other people's opinions the steering wheel of your life. You can listen, you can consider, you can even learn from feedback. But at the end of the day, you choose your direction because it's your life, not theirs. When you stop needing approval, you start walking with a different kind of confidence. Not the loud, look at me confidence, but the quiet, unshakable kind. The kind that says, I know who I am. Even if you don't agree. I know what I stand for. Even if you don't clap. That confidence makes you untouchable, because no one can dangle praise in front of you like bait. No one can withhold validation as punishment because you're not starving for it anymore. People will notice those who once used your need for approval to control you will feel powerless. They can't guilt you into choices. They can't flatter you into submission. They can't freeze you out to make you beg for their acceptance. When you stop chasing validation, You strip away their leverage. And ironically, that's when the right people start respecting you more. The ones who genuinely care for you won't need you to beg for approval. They'll support you freely. The hardest part is letting go of the fear that comes with it. Fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being alone. But here's the truth. Rejection doesn't define you. Misunderstanding doesn't destroy you. And being alone is far better than being surrounded by people who only accept you on conditions. Freedom begins where fear ends. So stop handing out the remote control of your worth to other people. Stop waiting for their green light before you move forward. Detach from their approval and you'll find something stronger than validation. You'll find self-respect. And once you have that, no one will ever have the power to control you again. When you control your emotions, manipulators lose their favorite weapon. Manipulation only works when someone can get a rise out of you. They study you, they learn your triggers, and they figure out exactly what to say or do to pull you into their game. If you explode with anger, they win. If you break down in tears, they win. If you argue back and forth until you're exhausted, they win. But the moment you learn to control your reactions, their entire strategy falls apart. Emotional control doesn't mean you stop feeling. Your human anger, frustration, sadness, and disappointment will always be part of your experience. The difference is what you do with those feelings. Instead of letting them spill out in the moment, you learn to pause, to breathe, to choose your response instead of handing it over to the person trying to provoke you. That pause, even if it's just a few seconds, is where your power lies. Think of it like a chess game. Manipulators love when you play checkers. Fast, impulsive, move by move. They say something sharp and you immediately react. But when you start playing chess, you stop making the first move they want. You don't rush. You don't play their tempo. You slow down. Think ahead and suddenly they don't know what to do. Your calm becomes their confusion. The truth is most manipulators thrive on chaos. They want you unsteady, flustered, off balance, 'cause that's when you're easiest to control. But calmness is like armor. When you stay composed, they can throw insults, spread rumors, or push your buttons, but nothing sticks the way they expect. Instead of defending yourself with frantic words, you defend yourself with self-control. That's a language manipulators can't speak. Of course it's not easy. It takes discipline to not answer every attack, to not correct every lie, to not fire back when someone provokes you. Your emotions will want to react instantly. But here's the truth. Every reaction is a gift you hand to someone else. When you react without control, you're giving them free access to your peace, your energy, and your focus. Why would you hand that over to someone who doesn't have your best interest at heart? The strongest people aren't the ones who never get angry. They're the ones who can feel anger, rise, and still choose patience. They aren't the ones who never feel pain. They're the ones who can sit with pain without letting it define their behavior. That's real strength. That's real control. And here's the irony. When you stop reacting the way manipulators expect, they usually expose themselves. Their games become obvious. Their words lose power. They grow frustrated because the hooks they use to grab you don't work anymore. In the end, your calm is what breaks their control. So remember that you don't control everything that happens, but you always control how you respond. And the moment you master that, manipulators are left empty-handed. Because when you own your reactions, you own your freedom. And once you own your freedom, no one can control you again. Sometimes the most powerful move is to say nothing and let your actions speak. Silence is often misunderstood. People think silence is weakness, or that it means you don't have a comeback, or that you're afraid to stand up for yourself. But in reality, silence is one of the sharpest tools you can carry. Silence isn't empty. It's loaded with meaning. It gives you space, it gives you leverage, and it shifts the power in the room. When someone attacks you, the natural instinct is to fire back, to defend yourself, to prove them wrong. That's exactly what they want. They want to see you rattled, emotional, off balance. But when you stay silent, you deny them that satisfaction. Your calm, quiet presence says, I don't need to convince you. I don't need to argue with you. I know my worth. That kind of silence speaks louder than any argument ever could. Think about it. Silence makes people uncomfortable. When someone expects a reaction
and you give them none. They start questioning themselves. They wonder if they went too far, if they lost control, if you see right through them. Silence puts the weight back on them. And while they're squirming in the awkwardness, you're conserving your energy and keeping your dignity intact. Silence also gives you time. Words spoken in anger or defensiveness can't be taken back, and they often make situations worse. But silence gives you room to breathe, to think, to choose how you want to respond later, if you even want to respond at all. And sometimes the best response is none. Let people reveal who they are. Let their own actions do the talking. Silence often shines a spotlight on their behavior, in a way your words never could. But silence doesn't mean you're passive. It doesn't mean you're avoiding conflict. It means you're choosing your battles with wisdom. You're not fighting every little comment, every rumor, every provocation. Instead, you're letting your life, your work, and your consistency prove who you are. People can argue with your words all day, but it's hard to argue with results. The hardest part is resisting the urge to fill the silence. We live in a world where everyone feels pressured to explain themselves, to justify their choices, to clap back when someone disrespects them. But silence breaks that cycle. Silence says, I don't owe you my energy, I don't owe you my voice. And that level of restraint, that level of control is where real strength lives. Over time you'll notice something. Silence not only protects you, it exposes others. Those who thrive on conflict, drama, and manipulation eventually reveal themselves when you refuse to feed them. And when they do, everyone else sees it too. Your silence becomes the mirror that reflects their behavior back to them. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, remember that silence is not surrender. It's strategy, it's strength, and in many cases, it's the move that leaves them powerless. Because sometimes the loudest message you'll ever send is delivered without a single word. And when you learn how to use silence as strength, you take away one of the last tools people use to control you. The greatest freedom comes from knowing you're not trapped. You always have the option to leave. Control only works when you believe you have no choice. When you convince yourself that you're stuck. When you let fear talk you into staying where you don't belong. The truth is, you're never as trapped as you feel. There's always a door, even if it's hard to open, even if it leads into uncertainty. And the moment you realize you can walk away, you take back the power that someone else thought they had over you. Walking away isn't weakness. It's not quitting. It's not running from responsibility. Walking away is clarity. It's the strength to say, this environment doesn't serve me anymore. This relationship drains me. This situation doesn't honor who I am. Walking away is not about giving up. It's about leveling up. You're choosing to stop watering dead plants, stop begging for scraps, and stop living in places that make you small. The reason walking away is so powerful is because it sends a message first to yourself and then to everyone else. To yourself, it says, I deserve better than this. That belief alone will shift the way you carry yourself and the way others see you. To everyone else it says, my presence here is a choice, not an obligation. If I stay, it's because I want to, not because I have to. That kind of energy can't be controlled. People lose their grip on you the moment they realize you won't hesitate to leave. When respect disappears. Of course, walking away isn't easy. It means stepping into the unknown. It means letting go of comfort, routine, and sometimes people you've invested deeply in. That's why so many stay trapped. They confuse familiarity with safety. But safety doesn't come from clinging to what hurts you. Safety comes from trusting yourself enough to move toward what heals you. The fear of walking away might whisper that you'll be alone, that you'll regret it, that you'll fail. But here's the truth. You'll never regret choosing peace over chaos, dignity over disrespect, or freedom over control. Sometimes walking away is the only way to reclaim your voice. You can talk, argue, explain, and beg, but nothing changes until your feet move. Your silence may shake them, but your absence will define the boundary in a way words never could. When you walk away, you prove to yourself that you're not chained to anyone's approval, behavior, or manipulation. You prove that your life belongs to you. And here's the secret. Walking away doesn't just free you. It frees the future version of you. The one who gets to live with self-respect. The one who doesn't spend nights replaying argument. The one who wakes up lighter because they finally chose themselves. That's the version of you that deserves a chance. So remember this. Staying small to keep the peace is not peace at all. Peace comes from knowing you always have options. And the greatest option you hold is the ability to walk away when something no longer honors your worth. That choice alone can never be taken from you. And when you live with that truth, no one, not a person, not a relationship, not a situation can ever control you again. At the end of the day, the message is simple. No one can truly control you unless you hand them the power. When you know your value, set boundaries without apology. Stop chasing approval. Master your reactions. Use silence as strength. And walk away when necessary. You take back the steering wheel of your life. These are not just habits. They are choices that build unshakable freedom. People may try to pull your strings, but strings only work on those who see themselves as puppets. You are not a puppet. You are stronger than manipulation, braver than fear, and more valuable than you've been led to believe. Live with that truth, and you won't just protect your peace. You'll inspire others to do the same, because freedom is contagious. And once you've tasted it, you'll never go back to being controlled again.